CWM's Smart Starts webinar on financial fundamentals for your college-bound student. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelsey, and I am Comprehensive Wealth Management's Client Experience Manager. Just a little bit about who we are at CWM. We are a family-owned boutique wealth management firm located in the Pacific Northwest with decades of experience delivering high-touch, holistic, intentional investment planning and expertise to help our clients reach their financial and life objectives. Leading our conversation today is our very own Brian Lockett. Brian is a principal of CWM and our lead advisor. As a certified financial planner, he brings decades of expertise and a personal and fiduciary commitment to put clients first, helping those clients define what living richly means to them by developing thoughtful strategies to help pursue their purpose. Brian is also an accredited estate planner. Brian started in the financial services industry in 2001 after graduating from Washington State University.
Long time ago.
He currently serves, and he can't escape Washington State University because
Nope, I can't now.
He serves as a trustee of the Foundation for Washington State University and is also a regular guest speaker for the WSU Carson School of Business. So,
Wow.
Brian, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge today. And we're so excited for this conversation.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Hopefully I can live up to it. That's quite the introduction, Kelsey. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. So our goal is to make this 45 minutes long, 30-minute presentation, ideally, followed by 15 minutes of Q&A. But the reality is that Kelsey and I really prefer it when we have Q&A as we're going. So real quickly, your cameras and microphones are turned off. So if you have any questions or comments during the webinar, use that Q&A button because the chat feature is also disabled. So let's do a quick sound check. Using the Q&A button, can you chime in and let me know whether or not you can hear me okay? And Kelsey, you want to keep an eye on the...
Yes, I will. I'm gonna assume yes.
Okay. And then how about you, Kelsey? Why don't you do a quick sound check?
Check 1, 2. Is this thing on?
There we go. Perfect. Can you hear me now? Verizon commercial.
Everybody can hear us.
Perfect. All right. So our agenda looks small, but it's actually pretty full. There's a lot behind each one of these topics here. We want to talk about getting ready for college, pitfalls to avoid during college, and then I like to close with things I wish someone told me. The reality is I'm taking this from the perspective of the things that I didn't know. You know, I went into this and I really didn't know a lot about it. And so I just really want to kind of take it from that perspective because there's a lot of things I learned along the way that I wish I had known beforehand. Well, so first is this thing called the FAFSA, the Great Mystery. Now, back when I was going to college, this thing was, much more of a mystery. Today, it seems to be much more well known. But for the parents here who are on the webinar, you're probably going to have to fill out a FAFSA for whatever school your kids are going to, even if you're not going to take out student loans. So just be aware of that. It is kind of a gauntlet to navigate as well. So let us know if you have any questions on that. You can go to usa.gov/FAFSA to learn more about that or even apply. So with respect to student loans, there's really two main tracks. There's the federal student loans and the private student loans. If you qualify for the federal student loans, bottom line, that's generally the better deal. You're going to get a better rate and possibly subsidized. So let me grab my little drawing tool here. So what you'll see here is we have this organization called Sallie Mae, which I honestly had no idea who this was. So again, me bringing up another one of these points. Sallie Mae is essentially a privately owned entity that is government backed. And they are, I think, the largest student loan provider out there. They've got to be the largest student loan provider out there. But the deal is if you qualify for the subsidized student loans, that's going to be your best deal. Now, you may not qualify for the subsidized, so you end up with unsubsidized, which means the private loans might actually end up being the better deal for you. So you definitely want to shop this if you end up in the unsubsidized category. Basically, unsubsidized means your household makes too much and they're not going to subsidize your student loans for you. So usually you take out a new loan every quarter or semester. So every single semester or quarter, you're going to get a loan that comes in. And when you graduate and you have to start taking payment or making payments, you're going to have a one-time opportunity to consolidate them and lock the interest rate in once you graduate. But it's a one-time opportunity. Keep that in mind. So you're saving that bullet for a good time. Right now, for example, we've been telling people don't lock your rate in right now. Wait, interest rates are trending down. And then once you do start, generally speaking, you have a 10-year repayment period. Okay, and it's an amortized loan. So in this example here, we have a $70,000 student loan at 8.37%, making that fixed payment $500 a month. So it's going to be $500 a month every single month for 10 years. And what you'll see here is the composition of this payment is slowly changing. It's going from $487 down to $488 down to $487. So as we go out in time, we're going to be paying less and less interest and more in principal. And this is really, really important to understand because you might have an opportunity to refinance this loan and it may or may not make sense. If I'm in year 8 of 10 and I have the opportunity to refinance this loan, let's say at 4%, I probably shouldn't do that because I'm going to start all the way over in that 10-year window and start paying all interest and very little principal at the end or at the beginning. So you just need to understand how amortization works. Just understand it's mostly interest in the early years and mostly principal in the later years. So understanding where you're at in that amortization schedule makes a big, big, big difference. I don't expect you to remember all that. I just want you to know if I'm presented with a refi opportunity, I need to do the math. Does it make sense for me to do this? Don't let just the interest rate make your decision. For instance, if you're near 2, I would absolutely do it. If I could go from 8.37% to 4%, because I'm still really early in that amortization schedule. So I hope that makes sense. Kelsey, no one's confused on the chat line there?
Doesn't look like it. We do have a question that just came in. Is it a good idea to pay more on that student loan than what your bill actually is every month?
Good question. So in this particular instance, 8.37%, absolutely. That's an ugly rate. You know, my general rule of thumb is if your interest rate's above the money market rate, which right now, you know, I was looking at the Schwab money market rate today, I think it was 4.16% as of yesterday's close. So if I can get, you know, my rate, if it's above 4.16%, pay it off. Pay it off as fast as you can. But if I'm below the money market rate, I just ride it out. That's my general recommendation. Good question. All right. Excuse me. So here's the mechanics. Again, removing some of that mystery that I went through.
Brian, we just got another question. Sorry. If you don't mind going back. Says, couldn't you refinance and continue paying the same amount to pay it off faster? Wouldn't refinancing be good in that instance? You know,
it's a great question. You just have to look at what would it cost to refinance, because there ain't no free lunch on this. Someone's gonna get paid a commission, whoever's doing that loan, generally speaking, to do that. But if you can refinance for free, if it's even possible, to be honest with you, don't know. Yeah, it probably makes sense. It's a good question. All right, so student loans continued. So here's the mechanics of it. Again, something that I didn't understand. I just all of a sudden realized I had $850 at the registrar's office. So how this works is, you know, the registrar's office, every student's got one of these, okay? I didn't know that. And your student loan money is going to flow into there, or if your parents are writing checks, they're going to put them in there, okay? And then the school's going to go in and they're going to pull out your costs. If you're living on campus, they're going to pull out the dorm costs. They're going to pull out your meal plan cost, and they're going to pull out your tuition based on the number of credits you have. Likely, there's some money left over. In my particular instance, it was about $850 to $875 a semester. So I'm getting, what, $1,600, $1,700 a year between the two semesters, and I was saving that. In fact, I was investing that. I was actually handing it off to my father-in-law, who owned the company many moons ago, and he was putting it into an investment account for me. Go figure. I just encourage you, don't blow it like I saw all my friends in college do it. You know, they would go on trips or buy a nice car they can't afford or whatever it was. Save that money, okay? Because again, you owe interest on this money. Whether it went to school or not, it has been borrowed. You are owing money on this. So I encourage you to do something wise with it. You could even turn around and apply it to your student loan, to be honest, and pay that down. It looks like you have a question, Kelsey.
Yep, we had a question come in. Could you choose not to accept that amount? If it's over and above, can you choose not to take that money?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to guess that it would be the equivalent of you just turning around and writing a check right back to your student loans to pay the principal down. I think it'd be the same effect, but good question. Okay. Yeah, good question. All right. So I apologize in advance. I'm a bit passionate about this topic, and it's because I've seen this part go wrong a lot, where people majored in something that was not employable. but they're 4 years older and they have 4 years worth of student loans and they're back living in the basement of their mom and dad's house because they did not pick a major that would get them a good first job. So if you're going to write anything down, students who are listening right now, you want to major in something that gets you a good first job. I don't want you to have this mindset, oh my God, I'm picking my career. You're not picking a career. The average person statistically is going to change jobs 11 times during their working years. Notice I didn't say career, working years. I mean, if you don't mind, Kelsey, how many jobs have you had since you graduated?
Well, pop quiz.
I mean, I can think of 3 off the top of my head that you've had.
Probably 6 to 8.
6 to 8 jobs, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, they may be in the vein of your major, but you didn't pick a career, did you?
No.
Right, exactly. So here's my
I still use
advice.
my degree every day, so.
Yeah, so here's my advice. Back into it. Start with what kind of lifestyle do you want when you graduate? I mean, realistically, what's the lifestyle you're going for? You want the high living lifestyle, or you want more middle class? Maybe you're going for the impoverished lifestyle. I mean, I don't know. Most people aren't shooting for that. And then where do you want that lifestyle? Where you live has a big impact on how much it costs. Western Washington is one of the most expensive areas in the nation. So you need to recognize that. If I'm an engineering major and I live in Western Washington versus, let's say, in the Tri-Cities in Eastern Washington, my standard of living is going to be dramatically different because the income is going to be very similar, but the cost of living is going to be very different. What are the jobs that you might like that will support that lifestyle? I'm just asking the question. You can ask this question of yourself. I thought I wanted to be a teacher. Turns out that wouldn't support the lifestyle that I wanted. Turned out that worked out pretty well for me. And then what majors, which we're going to talk about, will get you that job? Remember, we go to college to get a good first job. That is your objective. If you take that focus, it's going to really help. And the reality is that you're not going to love every aspect of your job. You know, the joke is work's so bad they have to pay you to do it. But there's going to be aspects of your job you really like. Like this, I really like. This is a great part of my job. Doing meeting notes after a meeting, don't love that as much. It's kind of tedious and boring, but it's part of the job. What's that?
I said they're important.
Oh, they're essential for sure.
That you do that.
They are very important. I don't disagree with that. And something else that I've added to this is, what are you naturally good at? You know, we all have some natural skills, and we actually make all of our employees, here's my book right here, Discover Your Strengths. This is from 2000, I believe 5 or 6 when we first started doing this. And Kelsey, I believe you had to do this, right?
I did.
Yeah. And so what this book does is and I encourage everyone here to go do this, even the parents. It just makes you feel like $1 million. You can see it's a quick read. It's not a very thick book, okay? The first half of the book is basically dedicated to this concept. Stop focusing on what you're not good at and becoming well-rounded, and instead, let's figure out what you're good at and harness that and surround yourself with the skills that you're not good at. A team, what a concept, right? So about halfway through the book, it's going to have you actually pull off the dust cover, and inside the dust cover, you're actually going to have your own little code. And that code is unique to you. By the way, you can get this for about $20 on Amazon. You're going to go out to the Strength Finder's website and you're going to take this test. Do not game the test. There's no wrong answers or right answers on this. It's just you. And then after that, out pops your top 5 strengths. Here are mine. And then you're going to go read about your top 5 strengths. And then it's going to talk about where these top 5 strengths generally excel in terms of jobs. Do you think that might help you figure out what majors you should probably consider based on your lifestyle, where you want it, and what you're naturally good at? Absolutely. I cannot encourage you enough to do this exercise. Plus, it feels really good. Wouldn't you agree, Kelsey, when you go through it? You feel great. There's nothing bad that comes out of this. All right, so determining the ROI, the return on investment. Just because a major is hard doesn't mean it will pay well. And by the way, this is going to be included in the toolkit. Everyone who's attended is going to get a link to a toolkit that's going to have a number of resources, this being the first of those resources. So this particular resource, it's a website that has the ROI for over 30,000 bachelor degrees nationwide. It's an incredible database. So I got to cherry pick the university, imagine that, for this presentation. Go Cougs. I just want to point this out. Microbiology and immunology, pretty difficult major. But if you're not going on to med school, because oftentimes that's a pre-med, if you're just going to be a microbiology major, don't do it, because you're only going to make $32,000. We did the math. That's about $1,200 more per year than if you made minimum wage right now at $15 an hour. If you lived in Seattle, you'd be below minimum wage. And if you go off to school and you go into debt to come out with a degree that makes minimum wage, that, in my opinion, is a failure. Okay? I'm really passionate about that. Whereas you look at the mechanical engineering degree I mentioned earlier, my roommate in college was a mechanical engineering major. He literally bought his first car with his acceptance letter for his first job. I mean, he didn't even have a paycheck yet, and he was able to buy it. Now, it was with the government, so that worked out pretty well. But you can see here, first year, you're walking out at $66,000. 20 years later, you're looking at about $124,000, and your career, or not career, but your total earnings during that time period is $1 million. So really, really important to go into this eyes wide open. What's the lifestyle I want? Where do I want it? What am I naturally good at? What are the majors that will get me the jobs, get me a job in the areas that will support that I would be naturally good at. But now we have this new wrinkle called AI automation risk, right? Robots and AI are coming in and they're eating quite a few high-paying jobs. So for instance, right now, here's an article. We're not including this one in the toolkit, or are we? I don't remember.
Yes, it should.
It is? Okay, great. So here's a list of some of the 38 jobs that I thought were interesting that AI and automation are going to replace. Paralegals, teachers, that's interesting. Journalists, coders and computer programmers. Considering they're the ones that made AI, I find that quite ironic. Graphic designers, therapists, bookkeeping clerks, so on and so forth. So we want to make sure that you're not picking a major that is actually going to be replaced soon after or while you're graduating. That would be terrible. So we're going to provide a link to this tool here, which is going to allow you to search and actually look at the odds of it being replaced. So for example, I was querying this just before we were getting on, and I put in CPA. See, I got that right, Kelsey.
Good job.
And the odds of that being replaced, 95%. When I was going to school, CPA or accounting majors were gold. When you were coming out of school, I think in 2001, making about $65,000 to $70,000 then. I mean, that was a very, very high-paying degree. Those computer programmers and coders, those are some of the highest paying jobs here in the Northwest. So this is a major disruptor, and let's make sure that it doesn't become a major disruptor for you. I also just want to put a quick plug in. Don't overlook the trades. There's a massive shortfall in the trades, and one of the benefits of the trades is you don't have to go through the 4 years of school. You're not going to go into debt doing that. And I just heard that we are about, I think it's short 500,000 just electricians nationally. And it's because everyone who's in the trades is aging out. And their kids, they were told, no, you need to go to college and get a degree. So we have this massive gap in tradesmen. Well, if we have low supply of tradesmen and high demand, what do you think happens to wages? It goes up. I have a friend who owns an electrical company. They do dentistry and medical. He's like, I can't hire an electrician for less than $100,000 a year. So I don't want you to overlook the trades. They are a very, very good thing to consider, especially right now. There's a real opportunity there. So let's switch gears completely. Your baby is no longer, or your child is no longer your baby. They're no longer, a minor. They're going to be 18 years old when they go off to college. And so you're not going to have that implied authority, that medical power of attorney or healthcare power of attorney that you have up until they turn 18. So if they're on campus, likely they're going to fill out a form and include you on it so that you can help out with health-related decisions or financial decisions, but off campus it's not. So for example, I would drive from Pullman all the way to Kent, Washington. That's a 4.5-hour drive. If I ended up in the hospital, God forbid, along the way, and we didn't have this form in place, sad story, mom and dad can't help me. They're not going to listen to my parents because I'm now an adult. Now, we're going to have these forms in that toolkit as well, but just keep in mind they do have to be notarized. But as part of attending this, we're going to provide complimentary notary services for that, but you do have to come to our offices to do that. We're right here on the west side of the mall.
Just give us a call and we can schedule a time to make sure the notary is available.
Thank you. All right, so pitfalls to avoid during college. There's really not a lot, in my opinion, here, but there is one big glaring one that I really, really am passionate about, and that's the credit cards. The credit card companies are predatory lenders, at least in my opinion, to college students because they know the bank of mom and dad is backing every single student. And they know that if they get underwater, that they're going to get bailed out. So they're going to hit you with these high rate credit cards with high late fees and so forth, knowing that it's going to probably work out pretty well for the credit card company. So do not get a credit card. A lot of people say, oh, I need to start building my credit. Chances are you'll probably damage your credit because you're going to get behind the 8 ball in this. It's extremely easy to do, and I saw it happen a lot. They have, they'll do these sign-up incentives. So at WSU, they'd have all these tents or tables, depending if it was raining or not, and they'd be right on the edge of campus because they can't be on campus. But I'll tell you, they were sitting right on that property line, and it was like the Chase card, the Alaska Airlines card, Bank of America Visa, you name it. It was everywhere. And they had all these sign-up incentives. And what do you think the sign-up incentive that they were doing around springtime was? Air miles, right? All the seniors wanted, in our particular case, they wanted to go to Mazatlan or Puerto Vallarta. Those were the two areas. So all these kids were signing up for these credit cards with these mileage bonuses so they could get at least one ticket. It wasn't necessarily going to cover round trip, but got it. But they got behind the 8 ball a lot of times. They probably spent more money on that trip and got behind the 8 ball actually. These credit cards, you're looking anywhere from 14 to 24% interest rates right now. Well, if you're just starting out and you're building your credit, guess what your credit card rate's going to be? Probably 24%. You're not going to be on the low end of that spectrum. Those are the low risk borrowers with mature and developed credit. They're going to qualify for more of that 14%, which is still way too high. We were talking about the student loans earlier at 8.37%. And I was saying pay those off fast if you can because it's too high. It's above that money market rate I was telling you about at 4.16%. High late fees. If you can't make the payment or your payment's not on time, you're looking at a late fee. We just looked this up yesterday, anywhere from $8, which I've never seen, to $40, which I've seen a lot. When I was in college, it was $35, even if it was a day late. Or you can't make the minimum payment. Let's say you rack up a $1,000 credit card bill and your minimum payment's $100. I'm just making up an example. And you can't make the $100 payment. You only make a $90 payment. Well, guess what just happened? That $35 got added on top. And now your credit card balance even got larger. You think your minimum payment's larger next time? Absolutely. And it begins to spiral real easily, especially at 24% as well. And they do have annual fees, so it's something you want to pay attention to. So here's my reminder to all college students. You are a poor college student. I want you to pretend you are poor and that you are just living paycheck to paycheck and you're just trying to get through this thing with good grades and as little debt as possible if you have to take out student loans. In other words, you do not need a nice car or a nice apartment or the latest and greatest clothes or the latest iPhone for that matter. You just need to get through college, do a good job, and keep your costs down. All right, pivoting again. Get a part-time job. This is probably one of the best things I did in college. So again, I'm speaking from my experience. Students who work part-time while in college actually do better. The saying is what goes in motion stays in motion. Or as we like to say as employers, if you want it to get done, you give it to a busy person because they have a tendency to get things done. Now, 15 hours per week is generally the ideal number of hours. I got a job in the student union building. It was called the CUB, the Compton Union Building. Every university basically has one of these. I think at UW it's called the HUB, the Husky Union Building. It's a student-run building right in the center of campus, and they'll work with your hours. So like I would go up, take class, work 2 hours, go back to class, and sometimes I'd even get paid to study at night. If I had a big exam the next day, I would sign up for the night shift, which no one wanted. No one's in the building, and I would literally get paid to study. It was absolutely fantastic. I cannot encourage you enough to sign up for this. On day one, my opinion, you go apply because there's a long line of applicants, as you might imagine. So it's going to take a while to get it. I didn't get the job until I was a junior. It looks good on a resume. It shows time management, professional development, dedication, and application. There's nothing bad that comes out of getting a part-time job. I don't want you to work too many hours. You got to do your studies, but get a part-time job. Have a budget. And I'm not talking about tracking every penny. Now, we're going to send you a budget spreadsheet. It's going to help you do that for those of you who really like to count down. To be full disclosure, never did, but I always had in my head, here's how much my income is, and here's how much my expenses are. And then I always kept $100 minimum in the bank. That was my threshold. $100 was essentially my zero. Okay. And I never had late fees. I was never not able to make a payment. And that worked out really well for me. I know $100, today, I don't know what that'd be equivalent to, maybe $250. It's been 25 years almost.
Brian,
Yes.
we've got a question/comment that's just come in about the credit card. So if the student needs a credit card, add them to the parent's credit card account. It will help them build a credit rating for post-college life. And better yet, you could do it when they're still in high school.
I was not aware that you can add a student to a credit card because, for example, Shiloh and I, my wife and I have a credit card, but technically it's in my name and she's an authorized user, so it's not building her credit. So I'm not sure that's the case or not. I'm all for it if you could do it. I think that's great.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but there's so many different credit card things out there now. There may be something like that, but I've just found in general, kids end up getting themselves in trouble because it's that what's the word? That impulse buy. The credit card allows you to make that impulse buy, and you have the perspective, oh, I'll be able to pay it off soon. Well, then, you have the other things that come up. Oh, there's an unforeseen expense, and then things just start to spiral. I just don't encourage it. So, things I wish somebody told me. Now, full disclosure, that picture there, I didn't want in here, but Kelsey insisted. That's actually a picture of me at graduation. That's 2001. So,
somebody should have told you not to make that.
Someone should have told me this was going to be in the newspaper. I think it's be the best. My roommate was the photographer for the little newspaper. So, anyway. My number one piece of advice for college students, and this is just from my own experience, anticipation often exceeds reality, or I would say almost always exceeds reality. You're going to come across a lot of things that are going to be perceived as hard. Like I had a class, Marketing 360. We had a 250-page paper, and I was like, what? I hate writing. There's no way I'm going to write a 250-page paper. Well, what they left out is I think it was about 245 of the pages was just computer output. I mean, it was nothing. It was a giant nothing burger. But I'll tell you, I put that up on the pedestal of impossible to achieve, ended up getting, finally getting around to it, found, oh, this is easy. I got this. Okay, so just have that in the back of your mind because we have a tendency to build things up and make them harder than they really are. If not you, then who? I think it was Mark Twain who said, an expert's anyone who's more than 50 miles from home. And my experience has been is once you meet them, you realize, you know what, they're just as good as you are. You're just as good as them. So have confidence in yourself. You're going to have these little windows of opportunity where you can step up, have the confidence and do it. You got it. You're just as capable as that other person. Now, this may be only from my experience, but 90% of my success has been from just showing up, being in the right place at the right time. I'm not going to go into the whole story of my internship, but basically I showed up one day when someone else didn't, and I was offered a full-time job, and here I am 23 and a half years later. One of the best things that ever happened to me. My dad always said, you got to make about 2 to 3 key decisions in your life that will set the trajectory. Major being a good one, by the way, that we were talking about earlier. But those little opportunities, they come and go. Those windows open and close very quickly. If you're there and you can go through it, you're going to have that opportunity. So again, showing up. And be memorable. We all want to be memorable. We want to be noticed. We want to stand out. But yet what happens is that we let our anticipation cause hesitation, right? We're kind of fearful. We're worried we're going to make a fool out of ourselves or whatever it may be. And so we don't act. My perspective, for example, when I go into a room of strangers is everyone there would much rather know everybody than not. And they're just looking for someone to break the ice. And so I just break the ice. And what I can see is they are internally thanking me for breaking the ice. So be memorable, stick your hand out, I promise. Kelsey, somebody there?
Yep, I just wanted to say, it's not a question. We had Morgan Arford, our Chief Investment Officer. He is on as an observer today. Thank you for doing a quick fact check for us on the credit card topic. The too long didn't read version of this is that yes, an authorized user does build credit.
Okay.
Different features on having a student on, allowing them to build credit. So you can add your child as an authorized user. Some credit card, there's no federal minimum for an age for someone to get a credit card. Just different credit card companies will have minimum ages. Like American Express is 13, Chase is 13, Capital One, no set minimum age. So
okay. Interesting.
So there are different options, and some banks offer secured cards or student cards once they turn 18. So Morgan, thank you for that real-time fact check and participating in the webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. Appreciate that. So I mentioned the toolkit earlier. So what's going to be in this toolkit? So we're going to include the budget template. And it's just an Excel spreadsheet, but it's got a lot of different categories of things that we see people spend money on. So it'll really help jog your memory. Oh yeah, I spend money on that. And it's going to auto sum for you. So this is going to give you a really good idea of your inputs and outputs, income minus your expenses. We're going to put in that general power of attorney. That's the financial power of attorney. That template will be included in there. You'll be able to download, fill out. And again, if you need notary services, just let us know. But you do need to schedule so that we make sure that one of our notaries is here. We're going to include that healthcare power of attorney. I know it seems like overkill, but it's really important. Knock on wood, so far it's never been needed. And maybe if we just keep doing this, that Murphy's Law will never, spring into effect. And then we're going to include a link to what is the financial value of my degree? What is the ROI on that degree? I think that's an extremely important thing. And then, of course, the last one is a robot going to take my job, right? We definitely want to know that. I do not want to pick a major, graduate, and find out. Like I graduated in the tech rec 02 with a tech major. So it felt a little bit like it had taken my job because I'm now competing with a bunch of people who have experience and have been laid off. And I have this piece of paper that says, hire me. I theoretically know what I'm talking about. No one's going to hire me. I started here as file boy, make $18,000 a year. So our sounding board service. So if you attended this, you can scan this QR code right here and you can actually schedule a 30-minute call and we'll just chat about your stuff. It's not a sales deal or anything like that. This is just a pure value add that anyone who attended this gets to come do. You can also just give us a call or you can go to our website to sign up for this as well. But that QR code is going to be your fastest bet if you have your phone handy. I'll leave that up for a couple seconds. All right, next up in our Smart Start series is the 10 myths about college savings plans. So this is going to be on 12:30 on September 23rd, and this is actually going to be talking about 529 accounts, and there's a lot of benefits, all additional benefits that came out because of Secure Act 2.0 that was passed a few years ago, and we're going to be taking you through a really cool tool. Classic example of the creative destruction we were talking about earlier. Will AI replace my job? The college placement counselors that you can hire to help you get a job. This is something that is going to really compete with them. It's an absolutely incredible tool. If you are serious about helping your kid with college right now, I encourage you to sign up for this because this tool will blow your mind. And we'll give you a second to scan that QR code if you want.
And we're really excited about this webinar. Our partners at John Hancock are going to be there presenting alongside us. This is their tool, as Brian said. And Chase Ferderer, our other lead advisor here, will be hosting that one. So Stay tuned for the Smart Start.
All right. And with that, thank you. Is there any more Q&A out there?
Don't have any that have come in yet.
So mark the time. We are on time, Kelsey.
Well done, Brian. I'm very proud of you.
Wow. And there was even some Q&A. How about that? And thank you, Morgan, for chiming in.
Yeah. We're here for any questions if you have them. I'm going to be back at my desk in the next couple minutes. You're welcome to pick up the phone and call, and I will answer the phone. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you attending.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kelsey. Take care.
Bye, Brian.